In the last video, we went all the way through and we found how much total cost to assign to each cost bucket, and then we went and found the activity rate for each cost bucket. So here we're going to look at, well, how would we use these activity rates to find out what any given customer costs a company to serve? So we're going to look at how we would go about assigning overhead to customers. So we're going to look at Acme Auto Parts, one of Baxter's customers, and see what it costs to serve this customer. So it says here that Acme Auto Parts placed a total of 12 orders. Note that the 4 orders of long life required a design change. So there was a total of 12 orders that Acme made, and there was 4 custom designs needed for this customer. So it tells us those 12 orders were made up of 8 orders for 60 Sure Start batteries and 4 orders of 50 long life batteries. So really, in total, they ended up ordering 200 long lives and 480 Sure Starts. And then it also tells us how many machine hours was used to make those batteries. So the 480 Sure Starts that Acme ordered required 288 machine hours to make, and the 200 long life batteries required 160 machine hours. So 288 plus 160, that's a total machine hours of 448. And in terms of customers, if we're just looking at Acme, we're only looking at one customer. So in terms of that, there's one. So we have the cost pool and we have the activity rate. So now we're just going to find out how much overhead to assign to this customer based on not only these activity rates, but how much of each activity measure was required to serve this customer. So customer orders, we know the activity measure for that is the number of orders. So if we take a look at this, how many customer orders were there for Acme? Well, Acme made a total of 12 orders. So we're going to take that activity rate of $452 per customer order and just multiply it by the number of orders. So for this one, we're going to take the 12 orders times the $452 activity rate per customer order. So the total cost or total overhead cost to assign to Acme based on the customer order cost pool is $5,424. Now we're going to do the same for design changes. The overhead cost per design change is $760, and this customer required 4 design changes. So we're just going to take that $760 per design change and multiply it by the 4 designs, or the 4 design changes. We can take that 4 times 760. So that gives us $3,040 of overhead costs to assign to Acme due to the costs associated with design changes. We'll do the same thing for order size. So this order size activity cost pool, its activity rate is $6.50 per machine hour. So that's on average what it costs in terms of overhead for each machine hour. And this customer ended up requiring 448 machine hours to complete all of the batteries it ordered. So we're just going to take the 448 machine hours and multiply it by the $6.50 it costs per machine hour in terms of overhead. Let's do that one again. 448 times $6.50. So that gives us $2,912 of overhead to assign to this customer due to the amount of machine hours required to serve that customer. And then lastly, customer relations. The cost to maintain customer relations is $1,540 per customer. Well, there's only one customer here. We're talking only about Acme. So the customer relations cost that we have to assign to this customer is $1,540. So we add all of those overhead assignments up, we get a total cost of this customer of $12,916. So the total cost of having Acme as a customer or serving this customer is about $12,916. So that's just the overhead cost for Acme. So we've just assigned overhead costs to Acme. There's other costs associated with this customer, like direct materials, direct labor, and shipping costs, those traceable costs. But so far we've just looked at the manufacturing costs to assign to this customer. So the next step is to take this cost and use it to find what the customer margin is. How profitable is this customer? How much profit are we generating just on this one customer, margin on this one customer? So to find that, to find the margin of a specific customer, you not only need the sales data related to that customer, but also the direct cost data. So the sales that we ended up bringing in from ACME is $29,200. So that's how much they paid for those 480 Sure Starts and 200 long life batteries. And then they also tell us what the direct costs associated with this customer are. So basically direct materials and direct labor costs that we needed to incur to make those batteries, and also the shipping costs to ship those batteries off to ACME. So those are the direct costs. So now all that we're going to do to find the customer margin is add in these cost assignments that we just found here for overhead, how much overhead to assign to this customer. We're going to add that in right below those other costs to find the customer margin. So we have the sales of $29,200 minus direct materials of $7,500 minus direct labor of $6,700 and minus shipping of $1,700. And then minus all of these overhead costs that we assigned to this customer. So remember, we assigned $5,424 to this customer from the customer order activity cost pool. We assigned $3,040 to this customer from the design changes cost pool. We assigned $2,912 from the order size cost pool. And lastly, we assigned $1,540 to this customer from the customer relations cost pool. Okay, so when we take sales minus all the direct costs minus all of the overhead costs, and keep in mind these costs I'm highlighting here are manufacturing and non-manufacturing overhead costs we assign to this customer. So that sales minus all of these costs leaves us with $384 of customer margin left over. So the total profit we made by serving Acme Auto Parts, or the total margin rather, is $384. So that's how much the company is benefiting by keeping this customer on. So whether or not that's worth it or not, it will depend on the company and what the profitability is of other customers and what's normal in this kind of industry. Okay, so just keep in mind, if you want to find a customer margin, you not only need to know how much sales was generated on that customer, you also need to know the direct costs related with that customer, and then you need to know the manufacturing and non-manufacturing overhead costs that you assigned to that customer to find the overall margin. So I'm going to pause here. So that was this video looked at not only how to find the total cost of a customer, but how to extend that to find the total customer margin of a given customer. So I'm going to stop here, continue watching to see how to do that very same thing, but with relation to products.